Okay, so in order to combine the two images, I'm going to click on one in Bridge and then press Command to select the other one, and then go up to Tools, Photoshop, Load Files into Photoshop Layers, and that'll just put them both in the same document, one above the other. Okay, so I've got the parrot layer and I've got the lizard. Okay, and I'm going to have to end up cropping eventually, but that's okay. So what I want to do initially is just line up the lizard's head where it's going to be. It's mainly going to be the head of the lizard I'm going to use to combine with the parrot. I'm going to be taking some of the scale texture though, and maybe putting that in, to help blend from one to the other, so that the scales are going into the feathers and making a convincing blend. So in order to help me lay it out initially, all I'm going to do is turn the opacity down on the top layer.
I missed the very first bit you did. Yeah, took them both into Photoshop together.
Sorry, I'm recording this, so I'll play it back. It's okay, I don't know, questions are good. All I did was click them both in Bridge and went to Tools, Photoshop, Load Files into Photoshop Layers. Okay, so with this now see-through, so I can see how it's going to line up, all I'm going to do is go up to my Move tool, and we're going to move it initially. And then I'm going to kind of transform and rotate it until it does what I want it to do. So if I free transform, I can kind of just line it up so that the lizard head is going to be where the parrot is right now. So if I rotate it a little bit more, it's hiding the beak. Don't worry if it's not hiding the beak, because we could clone that out on the layer behind, anyway. But I think that's not too bad as a starting point. It's hiding most of the bits I want it to hide. It's a blend. And I think that'll probably work. If the head's too big or too small, doesn't matter, you can transform it, you can keep transforming it till it's right. So edit transform scale, for instance, and you just drag by the corner, it gets bigger or smaller. So you can just keep playing with it till it's more or less right for you. Okay, once you're happy with it, I'm just going to click tick and enter, and then I'll maybe bring the opacity back up now on that layer. Right, can anybody think of a good way to select this lizard? Quick selection?
No, selection brush.
Selection brush.
Then you just click on that selection.
Right, okay. Selection brush. Not quick selection brush, no.
That's the one I mean.
Ah, right, okay. No, fair enough. Or the magic wands might work as well as the backgrounds completely white. It depends on your image. But probably quick selection's the one that will work for probably most of the images you've downloaded. So all I'm going to do is click and drag with the quick selection tool. To get most of this lizard here. Okay. And I'm going to zoom in. This is why I always have my navigator open, so I can check how accurate that selection is. I can see round about the scales it's not that accurate, so just going to make sure I pick these up. And it's not a bad starting point. So what I'm going to go into now, if you notice at the very top, there's something called selecting mask. If you're on any selection tool, that appears there. If it's not there, you go into selecting mask, and you get it that way. So if I click that just now, it's going to show me what's masked and what isn't. You know, it's quite handy, and you can see that I've actually missed some of the scales, so it's quite handy that I've done that. So with black and white, I'm just going to paint these bits in the middle to add to the selection. And the bits round the edge where it's not quite picked up the comb, I'm going to use this brush here, which is the Refine Edge brush tool. And that's quite handy for fur, hair, anything like that. Anything that's not a really easy outline. So Refine Edge brush tool, we're going to add to it. And I'm just going to keep the little cross in the middle of the brush. Keep that on the white if possible, in the background. So I'm just going to kind of brush there and then let go. And there's a bit of a delay, but it is kind of getting there. Right, so I'm just going around and trying to pick up these little bits if possible. Okay. So what to do once you've got it more or less the way you want it, we're going to click in the properties and view the mask on layers. So that we're going to see what it looks like actually on the picture below. Remembering this is quite rough and ready at this stage, we haven't done any blending or anything, so. And it lets me see if I've still got any white halos there. I just want to kind of clean up with the Refine Edge brush tool. Well, that's looking a bit better now. Okay, something else that can help you is if you down your global refinements, sometimes just add a little bit of smoothing and a bit of feathering and shift the edge in the way. It will help to remove any halo. So slight feather, half a pixel. And again, because I'm projecting, it's not letting me see the whole of that box, which is really annoying. There we go. Yeah. So I'm just going to up the contrast a wee bit, which will help with the edge, hopefully. And I'm just going to shift the edge in very slightly to try and remove that white halo. Okay, but we can go back and refine it a bit more. Okay, so if you're at this stage, I'm just going to output it now as just a new layer with layer mask. So output to new layer with layer mask. Okay, and it's making that mask for me, which I can then use. So how does it look right now, would you say? Look anything like the final image? No. Good. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. It looks shit. So let's be honest. So it looks like a lizard kind of cut out and stuck on there. No, it does at the minute. It does.
Wait until you see us.
Right, so selections are going to be your friend here as well, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to save a couple of selections. I'm going to save the selection of the lizard, the mask, and I'm going to save the selection of the parrot, which I haven't made yet. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to select the parrot with the quick selection tool. Okay. Okay, so Alt. Okay, so I've got the parrot selected, and what I want to do is save that selection so that I can bring it back and use it in a different way. So if I go to select, save selection, in fact I'll just give it a slight feather first and selecting mask, so it doesn't look too hard a cut out. So again, tiny bit of feather, bit of smooth, okay, that'll do. So select save selection, and I'm just going to call it parrot outline or something, because I'm going to bring that back later to help me stay within the lines when I'm adding scales and colour. So parrot outline, okay. Right, so if I bring back my lizard now, and I want to remove anything that isn't within the lizard, I can select inverse on that parrot outline. So select inverse, and then just get a black brush. So black brush, black reveals, doesn't it, the layer underneath? So make sure I click on that mask, and because I've made a selection, it protects the bit inside the bird and just removes the bit outside. Except I just rubbed half his chin off by mistake there. Does that make sense? A selection kind of protects things. You can only paint within a selection. So let me just deselect that again, which is Command D. Right, so at the minute, there's not much of a blend going on there. All I've done is I've cut off the bits of the lizard that go outside the parrot. So if I want to kind of subtly blend the lizard into the parrot now, what would I do? Do you think? With the brush? Yeah, it could be one way of doing it, definitely. Let's have a look. I'm just going to duplicate this layer so that I can use it again later. Sorry. Just when I project, it squashes my screen, which is dead annoying. Alright, so I can click on that mask, and if I get a brush and I turn down the opacity this time, and I make sure it's a really soft brush, which it is, I can then kind of subtly just paint on there, and it'll start to blend from one to another, keeping part of that on. Okay, so there's bits where the lizard doesn't entirely cover the parrot, and I'm not getting the scales. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take bits, other bits of the lizard if you like, and move them about so that I start to get scales on the rest of the parrot. So I'm just going to take little bits here, little bits of selection, maybe of this sort of scale texture, and just copy and paste it onto another layer. So edit, copy, edit, paste. And then I can just move this where I want it to be. So just say there's a bit on the back of the lizard, sorry, back of the parrot there where the yellow's showing through. There's no scales, nothing like that. I could just transform this and move it about. So edit, transform. Let's see, let's put some of these scales in there. And I'm going to use this again, I think, a few times just to add scales to various bits. So okay, so I've got the scales there. I'm going to load up my parrot outline again. So select load selection, parrot outline, okay. And then I can just add a layer mask to that to keep it within that selection. But you need to be on the right layer to do that. So again, I've got these scales coming in. I just want to blend them. So if I just want to add the scale texture without the colour, I'd probably go to something like luminosity, just to add these scales in. That's our blending mode. The other option is just to put them in as normal, but then take the opacity down so it starts to blend like the other ones. And I'm just going to keep doing this until I fill in all the area round about the parrot that's not covered in scales. So this one, again, let's just move it, put it down here this time. Let me just transform it a bit, just to make it a bit bigger. make the scales a bit bigger in the belly type thing. Okay, again, I'm just going to load that parrot outline so that I can make it stay within the parrot. So, parrot outline, okay, add a layer mask, done. And then just take the opacity down again, and maybe blend it. So I've also got a mask there, so I've got a low opacity brush, so I can just fade it by painting on the mask where I want it to fade and blend into these ones. And it's just all about that subtle low opacity brush really. That does the blending, you know, from one to another. And taking your time, not try to do too much at once. So, right, so I'll just put this final one up here on the back. So, okay, so yeah, this is the one I want to move. So it was worth making that parrot outline earlier because I keep using it again and again. So okay, and again I'm just going to paint to blend that in. Okay, is it starting to look better, do you think? Are we starting to get a transition between one and the other animal? Right, another thing that can really help is to add colour. You know, add colour from one animal into the other, you know, to kind of unify them with the same colour palette. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new mask out of the combined parrot lizard thing, whatever it is, Parzard, Lizrot, I don't know. Right, commands. So I'm just going to create a composite layer at the top by pressing my Alt or Option key and clicking Merge Visible, and that creates a composite layer, a flattened layer at the top. So then I can just use my quick selection on that to select it. The combined parrot lizard thing. And basically I'm going to use this just to keep the colours within the lines. It's just going to be like painting by numbers, where you can't go outside the lines because you've got a selection holding it in. So I'll probably do it. That'll do, I think. Alright, again, I usually like to give things a slight feather, so yeah, there's a bit I've not quite got there. So. Well, that'll do. We'll do it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just create a blank layer now. I'm going to turn that layer off. Create a blank layer at the top just by hitting the add new layer icon. And I'm just going to paint some of the colours of the parrot in, to the lizard's head to kind of make them match. So just the brush tool, the same one you use for black and white. And if you option click on the picture, it'll sample the colour. So you see that my foreground colour changed to yellow there at the bottom when I held the option key and clicked on a yellow feather. Same would happen if I click on the orange there while holding option. It selects that as my foreground colour now. So I can then go in and start painting. So I want these scales that I added, I want them to be orange, the belly of the parrot rather than green. So I'm just going to paint now with orange on that layer. Right, the problem at the minute is that layer is set to normal and 100%, and it's actually just obliterating the scales underneath. I just want them to colour them but keep the texture. So I'm going to change the blending mode of this and check which blending mode works for you. It might be multiply, it might be colour burn. I find that colour tends to work quite well just to add colour without affecting the texture. So I can add the orange in there and we still get the scale texture coming through. So colour blending mode really works. So I'll just carry on and I'll put some green, I'll put some yellow in, and hopefully you'll see that kind of ties it all together. So let's add some greeny colour. Okay, but like I say, by doing that selection, I can't paint outside the lines, so I can be as rough and ready as I want. Doesn't matter. It's still not going to go outside the lines because you can't paint outside the selection. Okay, so I've kind of blended it a bit more with more colour. Right, is that starting to look more convincing then? That we're blending the two together? And you can keep doing this until you're kind of satisfied with it. It's knowing when to stop. I would probably take more of the bit that I took from the lizard with, and just maybe extend the scales further down the parrot. I don't know. Just kind of finish it off. I think it's starting to look like it could be one animal blended together, and I think I'm just going to change. The other thing that can help is if the colour balance matches on each, and it didn't really to start with because the parrot was, I don't know, it's shot in a really warm tone. It's not looking great, so maybe add a curves above that layer just to cool that down a bit. It's better. Nice neutral grey background. adding the colour in. Yeah, it's starting to look not too bad. So maybe just do put a wee hue saturation above it or something just to tie them together. Again, bring out the colour more. Oh, it's not too bad. Right, so then I just end up cropping that to kind of finish it off. Right, I'm just going to stop recording. Has anyone got any questions that they would want in the recording about how to do this? Or right, I'll come round and have a look at yours. So let me see. Come on.